The Simpsons Predictions that Shaped the Future. When The Simpsons first aired on December 17, 1989, no one could have imagined that an animated sitcom about a dysfunctional American family would one day be discussed as a mysterious predictor of the future. Created by Matt Groening, The Simpsons started as a satire on American life, poking fun at politics, culture, and everyday society. But over time, it grew into something far beyond its original purpose. Viewers across generations began noticing something strange. Episodes that aired years earlier seemed to mirror real-life events that happened much later. What began as small coincidences eventually became a list of eerie predictions that sparked global curiosity. How could a cartoon possibly foresee the future? Many of the writers who contributed to The Simpsons were not just comedians. They were intellectuals, scientists, and graduates from some of the most prestigious universities in the world. Their deep understanding of politics, economics, and technology allowed them to create storylines that reflected social trends far ahead of their time. Because of this, the show often felt like a mirror of human behavior and the path society was heading toward. While most shows simply entertained, The Simpsons analyzed, mocked, and revealed truths that many had not yet noticed. Over the decades, The Simpsons has aired more than 700 episodes. Within this vast collection, countless moments seem to have foreshadowed real events. Some of the predictions are lighthearted and coincidental, while others are so accurate that they appear almost supernatural. Let's explore some of the most famous examples and the deeper meaning behind them. Perhaps the most famous and shocking prediction made by The Simpsons came from an episode titled Bart to the Future, which aired in the year 2000. In that episode, Lisa Simpson becomes the first female president of the United States. During her term, she casually mentions that her administration inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. It was meant as a joke, a reflection of Donald Trump's reputation as a flamboyant businessman. But 15 years later, the joke became reality. In 2015, Donald Trump announced his candidacy for the presidency, and by 2016, he was elected as the 45th president of the United States. The strangest part wasn't just the prediction itself, but how visually accurate it was. The scene in which Trump descends an escalator to announce his campaign looked almost identical to the real-life footage from 2015. The crowd, the camera angles, even the way people waved banners, all were eerily similar. This moment transformed The Simpsons from a satirical comedy into a cultural mystery. Fans and conspiracy theorists alike began wondering how a cartoon could replicate the future so precisely. Another fascinating example comes from the 1998 episode titled The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace. In this episode, Homer Simpson decides to become an inventor. On a chalkboard behind him, there's a complex equation written in his messy handwriting. Years later, scientists pointed out that the equation closely resembles the formula used to estimate the mass of the Higgs boson, often called the God particle. The Higgs boson is one of the most important discoveries in modern physics, confirmed by scientists at CERN in 2012, almost 14 years after The Simpsons aired that episode. While it's unlikely that the writers truly predicted the Higgs boson, the coincidence reveals something deeper. The show's writers had an interest in science and mathematics. Some of them held degrees in physics and engineering, which allowed them to include sophisticated jokes and references that went unnoticed by casual viewers. This intelligence-driven humor became a signature trait of The Simpsons, blending science, philosophy, and pop culture in a way that few other shows could achieve. In 1998, an episode titled When You Dish Upon a Star featured a background joke showing that 20th Century Fox was a division of Walt Disney Co. At the time, it was simply a clever jab at corporate media monopolies. No one believed it could ever come true. But in 2019, over 2 decades later, Disney actually purchased 21st Century Fox for more than $70 billion, turning the joke into a historical reality. The prediction was so exact that news outlets around the world referenced The Simpsons while reporting on the deal. Once again, a throwaway gag had transformed into an accurate forecast of the entertainment industry's future. This example highlights one of the show's core strengths, its ability to identify long-term trends. Even back in the 1990s, The Simpsons recognized how corporate media was consolidating power. The writers understood the economic direction of Hollywood and exaggerated it as satire. In the end, what began as comedy turned out to be an observation of an inevitable outcome. The rise of technology, from smartwatches to Neuralink. The Simpsons also showcased remarkable insight into the world of technology. In a 1995 episode titled Lisa's Wedding, the show imagined a future where people communicate through wristwatches that display video calls. 2 decades later, smartwatches became a reality with the release of devices like the Apple Watch. Similarly, The Simpsons featured a plot about brain implants and mind-controlled technology long before companies like Elon Musk's Neuralink began developing such innovations. The series often depicted futuristic inventions, from automated homes and self-driving cars to artificial intelligence assistants, all of which exist today in some form. These storylines reflected not just creativity, but a deep understanding of how science evolves. The writers paid attention to emerging research, early prototypes, and the direction of consumer technology. What they wrote as science fiction often became science fact. Cryptocurrency and the digital economy. In a 2019 episode, The Simpsons briefly mentioned Bitcoin and blockchain technology. Although cryptocurrencies had already been invented, they were still relatively new to the general public. The episode not only referenced Bitcoin but also explained blockchain in a simplified way, hinting that it would become an integral part of the future financial system. Within a few years, cryptocurrencies became a global phenomenon, changing how people think about money, banking, and digital assets. Once again, The Simpsons had captured the future of human innovation through humor and foresight. In a 1993 episode titled Marge in Chains, The Simpsons depicted a mysterious flu virus spreading from Asia to Springfield after arriving in shipping boxes. The Osaka flu, as it was called, made residents panic and demand a cure. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic decades later, many viewers revisited that episode, astonished by how accurately it reflected the global chaos that came with the real event, from misinformation to mass hysteria. The show even predicted political responses, supply shortages, and public reactions that mirrored real life. While it was meant as satire, it once again displayed the show's uncanny understanding of how societies respond under pressure. The Las Vegas sphere and futuristic architecture. In one episode from 1996, The Simpsons showcased a massive dome-shaped entertainment venue in Las Vegas, complete with holograms, light shows, and immersive visuals. Nearly 3 decades later, in 2023, the Las Vegas sphere opened, featuring technology almost identical to what the show imagined. The resemblance was stunning and added yet another example to the long list of predictions. Fans began to wonder whether The Simpsons writers had some extraordinary insight into the evolution of architecture and entertainment. By 2025, California faced a new series of massive wildfires that destroyed thousands of acres. The disaster was tragic, yet eerily similar to a scene from a 2016 episode of The Simpsons, where the fictional town of Springfield burns in a massive blaze while the residents flee in panic. The imagery between the animation and real-life footage was unsettlingly close. Although it's clear that climate change and fire patterns were already topics of discussion years earlier, The Simpsons had once again shown how fiction can mirror reality in unexpected ways. The natural question arises: how does this keep happening? Are these predictions the result of coincidence, or are the writers genuinely capable of foreseeing the future? The truth is likely somewhere in between. The creators of The Simpsons are masters of observation. They study political trends, technological experiments, and human behavior with an analytical lens. What appears to be prophecy is often an intelligent projection of what could logically happen based on the direction of society. For example, the Trump presidency may not have been a random guess. Trump had hinted at running for office as far back as the 1980s. The Disney-Fox merger was a possibility given the growing power of major corporations. Even the prediction of smartwatches and artificial intelligence can be traced to ongoing research in the 1990s. In other words, the Simpsons writers didn't predict the future. They simply understood it better than most. At its heart, The Simpsons is a mirror, reflecting both who we are and who we're becoming. The writers excel at capturing the essence of modern life, from consumerism and politics to family and technology. Their humor is grounded in realism, which allows the show to remain timeless. Because of this, what they portray often aligns with real-world developments. This method of cultural reflection is not unique to The Simpsons, but the scale and accuracy of their examples make it extraordinary. The show has become a living timeline of humanity's progress, documenting not just laughter but insight. It teaches that creativity, intelligence, and awareness can sometimes appear like magic when seen through the lens of time. After more than 30 years on air, The Simpsons remains one of the most influential television series in history. It has won dozens of awards, inspired countless memes, and shaped popular culture across generations. But its most lasting legacy may not be its humor. It may be its ability to capture the collective consciousness of society. The show reminds us that fiction and reality are not separate worlds. They influence each other, overlap, and evolve together. As we move deeper into the 21st century, the line between imagination and prediction will continue to blur. Artificial intelligence, space travel, climate change, and digital life will all reshape humanity's future. And it's entirely possible that The Simpsons will continue to capture those transformations in its own satirical way. What began as a cartoon family in Springfield has become something larger, a reflection of our world, our choices, and our destiny.